Welcome, everyone. I'm John Featherston, the founder and CEO of RISMedia. Thank you for joining us for Lessons in Leadership. For those of you who are new, our wonderful host, Dermot Buffini, is the CEO of Buffini Company, the largest training and coaching company in North America. Buffini Company holds a unique position in the marketplace. They lead more agents, coach and train more brokers than any other company in the real estate industry. To give you context of their impact, they've impacted and changed the lives of more than 3 million professionals in 41 different countries. They've helped millions of agents, brokers, managers, and business owners not only build great and lasting businesses, but also build fulfilling lives. Dermot has been recognized as an RISMedia newsmaker, as a finalist for the San Diego Business Journal's CEO of the Year. Under his leadership, Buffini Company has been recognized as one of the top workplaces in San Diego. We're honored to have Dermot here today, and he'll be taking the leadership insight, talking with all things that are important to you, with Helen Hanna Casey, a true icon in our industry. Please welcome Dermot and Helen Hanna Casey.
Well, great to see you, John. It's great to be back on another Lessons in Leadership. And welcome, Helen. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Great to be here with both of you.
Well, we've already been rolling here before we got on the camera. We were already getting into some good stuff and getting excited. But I want to welcome everybody back to another Lessons in Leadership. You know, I love doing these. I learn so much. And I think two of the attributes of a leader is to be curious about what's going on in the marketplace, but also curious about learning from other people. The second attribute that I always look for is generosity. And Helen, I thank you for being so generous with your time. We're looking forward to having the audience hear from your experience today. I know we're going to get into some questions, and then John, we're going to come back to you, and you're going to have some questions from the audience. So we'll see you in about
we'll see you in a few minutes. Have some fun.
All right, John.
John.
Thanks. Well, I know many people on this webinar know you, Helen. I have your resume here, your hit list, and candidly, if I was to go through it, I think we'd run out of time. But I do have a couple of points I do want the audience to know, and that is the fact that you are the CEO of one of the largest regional companies in the country. I know that you're a history student. I also know that you guys have done a great job running a company, and in my calculation, my rough Irish math here, you guys have worked through 7 recessions since you started Hanna Real Estate Services. Like Buffini Company, I know you have your roots in Ireland. You come from your family are entrepreneurs just like mine, but you also get to work with your family. And I know that you work with your sister and your brother, and now you have grandkids working. You got all members of the family working in the company. But it's obviously all contributed and worked very well, because you guys have grown to nearly 500 offices and have now more than 14,000 agents in 13 states. So Helen, welcome. We're looking forward to hearing from you today. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here today, and have been delighted to get a chance to know you better. As we said, we're always at the same place at the same time, but we don't get to spend time with each other, which is really a nice change. So thank you. And I'm sure we'll be something soon together. So
absolutely. Well, as I said, I've said to people, I grew up in Ireland around a lot of women just like you. Who looked like you, sounded like you. They had tender-hearted, but they weren't afraid to give you a kick in the backside if they needed it. So I feel like I know you a long time.
Well, you know, this is October, and I love October because actually next week in all of our markets all over the next 2 weeks, we have what we call fall summits, and I'm going to perform a little bit because I really haven't made a fool of myself in a long time. And I believe to lead, you have to be able to occasionally make a fool of yourself. And so I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it in talking about Halloween and how important that is. And senior women in the company, every year I send them something with a witch on it, with a message which says, sometimes you have to be a little witchy, but most of the time you have to be really nice. So to that, you know, I say it's that time of the year, and sometimes we all need a kick in the butt. Sometimes, every one of us, you know.
Absolutely.
Even with women.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing about it is that why I'm excited to have you on, especially at this time of the year, is it's not just, you know, coming into holiday season. There's great opportunities for agents to connect and companies to do cool things to connect their agent. But we're obviously heading into election season. We're heading into there's no good news season. There never is, and that's why I'm excited today, because you know what, you and your company have a culture that has endured many seasons. So we have a lot of great leaders on this call today, and they want to learn from your experience. I want to learn from your experience. And as people know, I don't know the answers you're going to give, but I am curious to learn from your experience. So let me ask you this. Who are the leaders that you admire and why? Can you tell us a little bit about some of the folks who maybe influenced you?
Well, so obviously I have to talk about my father, who died last year at 101 and a half,
Wow.
who started the business. But I would be remiss not to talk about the rest of my family. My mother, who was an incredible driving force. She was one of those women that, yes, kicked you sometimes. But as we said, if we didn't get into college, we never knew it, because my mother just would have torn up the regret. So that would have been her style. But I think, yes, we were very blessed with incredible parents, but we were blessed also with a wealth of experience of being entrepreneurs from our family behind us on both sides. And I think that was very helpful. So we were raised next door to our one uncle, and my other uncle lived blocks away. Our real estate office was 2 blocks away. My mother's family's funeral home was 4 blocks away.
Wow.
So we were always part of entrepreneurial businesses. And so we learned a lot as a young child, you know, and so I think that was important. I don't think my parents ever groomed us to come into this business, but they did groom us to be thinking people. They groomed us to be innovators. They groomed us to be strivers. And so I think that's really important. So at our house, you know, Thursday nights, we took the Time Magazine quiz of the week, so that, because we were expected to read newspapers, we had political conversations. You talked about politics. My parents had people over on these little TVs we had back then, you know, to watch the both parties, because they were different parties, my parents. I don't know how you do that today, but they could do it back then. But to watch, you know, to watch the conventions, you know. So I do think that we had a tremendous advantage that way, that we were raised to be adults from a young age. They introduced us to amazing people and to amazing things. And so so they have to be, for us, our primary role models. But I also think that role models are interesting, because you mentioned that I studied history. They come from history, certainly, also, people. But I don't know that it's, for most of us, it's not one person that we can say. We had the advantage of, at a young age, our, you know, going away to school and learning from different teachers there, learning from different friends, but then in the business of taking classes and going to programs that, you know, I was once at a conference, and they had the best ideas, and you got a prize, 500 or 250. And so ours was, ours I think has had more worldwide impact than the other one. The other one was a new real estate company out of Texas. You may guess who it was. And they won. But ours was a Hanna branded credit card in the 1980s.
Huh.
So pretty, you know, at the time, it was pretty amazing that we had MasterCards with our names on it.
Sure.
So we gave our agents and our clients that you could apply when you got a mortgage through us, you automatically got a credit card. So it was a pretty good idea. And now everybody in the world has branded credit cards, but we didn't give points. So they're not very effective, because we don't give you points to buy things or to travel, et cetera. But so I think we've learned so much from those people, but I also met all of the greats in our industry that preceded us, and that you learn from them. In a strange way, people ask this all the time, you know, what women mentors did you have? Well, there weren't a lot. Okay, I didn't know Ebby Holiday. She was considerably ahead of me, but I did know these great women, and I did learn from some younger women from Texas, their style, as opposed to women my own age from Florida or from New York. We were learning together, and I think that's what was so amazing, is that we helped develop the industry as we know it today by being with each other. And so there are so many names that I could mention to you, but it would be overwhelming because I have learned from so many.
You know, it's, well, wow. The great thing about talking to an Irish woman or an Irish man is we're not short of some words. So let me just unpack a little bit of what I heard you say there, because that was fantastic. What I heard is, it sounds like your parents really created a culture in your home.
Oh, yes.
You know, a culture where there's togetherness, there's unity, there's curiosity, there's learning, there's some discussion, there's some understanding, there's some respect. And so, you know, I can see why you guys have been as tight as you are. And that's just wonderful parenting, which at the end of the day, I think in some ways, you know, a lot of folks, and I was blessed with great parents. I think there's a lot of great leaders who are blessed because they had great parents. But how has that started? How have you kept that alive? How have you brought that along to the new generations? You know, we were just talking here about, before we came on, about when you have an opportunity in the company, you guys have a specific philosophy of how you approach that.
Of course we do, but part of that is, you know, there's a slogan that's on the wall in my office, which is the good manager explains, you know, I'd have to read it to give it to you exactly, but the mediocre manager tells, the good manager explains, superior manager, but great manager inspires. So it doesn't matter if it's within your family or within your company or within your office, if you're an office leader, or quite honestly, if you're a team leader. If you can't inspire them with your knowledge, with your beliefs, then you can't lead them. It has to be the number one thing. And as I say, when we talk about, and we have that advantage also. So certainly, people don't know my sister. My sister runs everything back of house that my brother and I wouldn't, or by the way, couldn't run, by the way. But my brother is incredibly inspirational. I mean, he just gets people to follow. And so we followed. He's the oldest and we have followed him. But I see that in the leaders who are my age, who aren't as part of the family also, by the way, because we have a lot of people that are not part of the family that are leading in this company, that they have brought their style into it and they inspire in a different way. It isn't necessarily the same voice, but it is the same message. And I think that's incredibly important is. And so how do you have people, because when you're looking for leaders for the future, there are things you have to look at. You do have to look at, are they sustainable? Can they carry through to the long? Are they flexible? All right. But also, you know, do they have enough innovation to create themselves within it? And are they accountable to the people they work with? So I think when you look at that, then you have to say, not all of us can be inspirational every day, but it does have to be pretty key to what you are doing as a manager. If you're inspiring, then you are giving them your message. Again, whether you've got 2 people on a team or a 50-person office or a whole company, and it doesn't matter the size of the company, you have to have them believing what you say. And I think it's really difficult. You know, there are scam artists in the world, I know, but for most of us, you better believe it yourself. Yeah. So what your philosophies are, what your beliefs are, and what your goals are, you have to be together on those.
Yeah, I love it. Well, one thing I've seen with you guys too and learned from watching you over the years is it's not just talk, it's inspiration through action and inspiration through those principles. Where I was going with earlier a little bit was, I think it's cool that when you're looking to raise up other leaders or new opportunities, the first place you guys look is inside your own company.
Always.
And so how does that work? What is the philosophy behind that?
Well, because there is a learning curve anywhere, all right? And that does not mean that, because some of our great leaders came from outside and still do, and a new president in North Carolina at Tate was with them, left for many years, has come back to us now. Our past president in Pennsylvania was with another company, just celebrated his 35th year with us or something. But and if you go through, and you will see that throughout, there are people like that, but perhaps more importantly are those that have risen up. So today, I started this morning announcing a new manager in one of our offices, or being at that announcement. And I will end the day with the former manager of that office being announced at another office. Uh-oh, I probably gave that away to some people. But But anyway, and those are both internal people. And so you have to be offering them those opportunities, the opportunity to grow, whether it's management training, whether it's leadership development, no matter what you call it. But also I firmly believe that it's based on one-on-one what you choose to do, no matter the size of your company and how you relate to that. And I often say, you know, yes, we have a big company, but I know everybody that wants to know me. Doesn't mean I know everybody, but anybody who wants to know me, I know, right? That's a relationship, and that's how you develop leaders for the future. So if somebody here wants to be a leader, their manager needs to help identify them, but we have to get them to know them personally.
That's great. Well, you know, sometimes the gold is right under people's feet. And I know in leadership, people are always like, well, if I just go get this person and I bring them in, and, you know, and a lot of times those people reside right underneath our feet. And it, you know, it, as you said, no, every family, every company, there's a learning curve. And, you know, if you have the benefit of somebody who's inside your organization, who's looking for an opportunity and knows you and is trustworthy, you know, that makes so much sense. But it also makes me think of this little quote here that I found as I was stalking you online. You said about your mother, your mother she ran the household. She treated both the boys and the girls equally, right? And that's kind of passed on through. You guys are equality without knowing you were in equality. You were just people doing their jobs.
Except we're Irish, so my brother did get served first.
Yeah, I know that. Don't bring up the war. I've heard that one before too. Yeah, that was where we missed it. But here's what I love: what you said, that that the children were raised all to be educated according to your strengths.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
That is genius. I think that is brilliant. Let's talk a little bit family. I work with my family members. We certainly have different gifts, different talents. I think part of that is being okay with it and being totally comfortable and having a respect. Talk about the different strengths in your family and how that philosophy, it sounds like it ties into what we were previously talking about. You're looking for people with strengths, but why don't you talk about just the differences in your family, the different strengths?
I said my sister, who was an education major and then got her master's in special education and just came in the summer before she started her job. She's got her master's. She's invested all this time in it. And she comes in and she finds my father's checkbook under the seat of the car because he'd pay agents as he went. It's really not the best way to run a business. And she was educated enough to know that, and she didn't take another job. Instead, she went and took accounting courses. So, and it was a strength that we wouldn't have known that she had, by the way, or she did, but she developed it within it. Right? My brother was always a leader. Okay. I was also always a very social person. We're all very social, but, I think that we see that if you look at our next generation, some of them have gone to graduate school. Almost all of them have gone to graduate school now, but one got her master's in marketing. All right. Another one is the latest one to come in. She had an online business for lingerie. And she just is, I mean, her social media is just overwhelming. It's a totally different strength than any of her cousins have. Right? Another, he determined he wanted to go to Georgetown to get his master's in real estate. And somehow he managed to do it. I don't think he got in the first time because they told him you got to have some experience, but he went to work and he came and learned all different parts of the company before going. And so I think, and as I said, there's a couple of attorneys, and you always have to have a couple of attorneys in any family. That's but again, if you go to the background of some of the people that are with us, obviously, I mean, we have the greatest CFO in the world. And I don't know how she functions with this because she is so brilliant, so knowledgeable. She is so knowledgeable. We wouldn't be where we are without her. But she's not like any of the rest of us. Her strength is entirely different. Okay? She doesn't have to be out there in front. She doesn't have to be, doing things every day. So I think that's what you have to look for within your own team. You don't all have family. And as I said, we had a lot of time in between these children coming in and the time we were in. So how do you, again, look for those strengths? We just have a new CTO. And it's the first time we have hired a CTO from within. And I mean, the candidates were just so great from within, and we knew them all. And again, it's not their personalities, it's the knowledge that they have imparted and how they have built their team and how they have inspired their team, that their own team was asking for him when the other person stepped away. And so, again, I think you have to look for what their qualities are, leadership, but also skill, because you can be a great leader, and if you don't know what you're talking about in our business, it doesn't do you any good.
Oh, for sure. And I've seen your own strengths, because I know one of the fascinating things is you and your husband, you've got a passion for the theater, and you've produced shows, and you've won awards, and you're definitely an out front person.
I'm not from.
Yeah, you're like a good, really great communicator. You're very easy. I've seen you on stage. You enjoy it. That's your comfort zone. You know, and I just think, you know, as you think about a family, trusting each other, it's like being okay with that's not your gift, but it's Helen's gift, so we'll send her. You know.
Well, yes, but I'm saying, but we have a lot of people with that gift of gab. You know, just like the Buffinis, and so that you have to have a balance, because you can't outweigh. You can't outweigh the other people that are with you, and their strengths are different. And so we can have an absolutely great state president who is not quite as good on stage, but we have to work with them to showcase them so that people see their skills when they're in front of the whole group, not just us.
Which again is generosity, right? Because it's hard. And I admire that, because I see that you never travel alone. There's always somebody from your family or with you as part of the team that you're bringing on the journey with you.
Yeah.
And I got to imagine that, you know, that again builds trust, such trust where you're like, hey, I'm in it too. And you want to see other people shine. Like, you're not just the star of the show. You're the producer. You're the director. You put other people forward, and I think that is such one of the I think why you guys have such a passion from your leadership to contribute.
But don't you think that's what real estate is to a great extent? And you know, you didn't have to be the #1 salesperson.
No.
You didn't have to be the star of your sales force. You have to have others believe that you know and can help them. Okay? Yeah. And it's not just, and I think you have to also be careful, because it's not just your star salespeople. It's the people that will be the stars next year along with them. You know, that's what's another incredible thing about this business is you can have multiple stars. It's not like a Broadway show where there's only one star. You know, you can have stars all over the place succeeding. But again, if there aren't people to lead them, at least under our belief, all right, we're very big on our management team and very big on having resources for people. And that requires a commitment on our part to lead them and train them. So, yeah, so I do think you have to do that, but that's the great thing. But, you know, that's, but we are in a sense producers. We're not the stars, we are the producers.
Yeah, no, you're raising up the next generation.
In many cases financially, and I mention that because I think that's something that leaders fail to look at many times. When it's really easy to say, I want to lead, I want to be an entrepreneur, but there are tremendous, when you have people that work for you, there are tremendous financial responsibilities that you have to be aware of. Yeah. There are tremendous financial responsibilities that come to you. As I said, we might joke that my father had his checkbook under the seat, but the agents got paid first, as my mother would complain often. Yes, but but yes. So what I'm saying is that that's part of the responsibility of leadership, is not just your generosity of spirit to people. It's also how you support them and how you are financially stable for them in the future, so that they're sure that they're going to get paid, that they're sure that the marketing dollars are going to be there. They're sure that if there's a market change going on right now, perhaps, that everything isn't going to be cut off, you know, that supply chains aren't going to disappear, people aren't going to disappear. So I think given that, you have to be very cognizant of that part of the responsibility. And a leader has to have that knowledge, by the way.
Absolutely. And, you know, I got 2 questions for you. No, these aren't on any of the questions I asked you, and we knew this was going to happen anyway. Yeah. One of the things I think you guys have done a great job, I think there's a humility and a strength in your company. I think there's a humility in you're open, you're willing to learn, you're willing to grow. And I think you've done a great job of balancing your principles and the new modern ways. But before I get into ask you about how you manage those two things, you've also had this exponential growth, right? You're in 13 states now. You've acquired companies. What do you look for when you're blending the family? Okay, what are you looking for? What's most important? Yeah, what does that look like culture-wise?
Well, I say it used to be easier when I did this part of the job because we do have a lot of great people working for us now. And my nephew really, Hobie spearheads this, but because they were smaller, the companies we were buying, But one of the things that we have been fortunate about goes back to what I said before about the ability my parents gave us to go learn and go to sessions and take classes and, take a CRB before anybody knew a CRB was for you to go take it, but to learn from other people. And so as a result, we know a lot of people. So we have relationships that have already formed and they know about us. And that does not mean our cultures are exactly the same, by the way, because there are no two cultures exactly the same. Right. And our cultures are important to us, each one of us. Mm-hmm. But there are things that we know, the principles of how we function are the same. How we have built our businesses may be different, but the end goals are the same. And so when you look at that, we've been blessed to have people that we know in advance.
All about relationships.
It's about relationships that, we've talked to in the past. Do you bring in your next generation? Do you force them out? Do you make them go work somewhere else? Are you better to sell your company and hand dollars to them for the future? Or are you better to build the company for them? So I think that's a big part of it, number one. Number two, I think we are better at blending because we have done it now so often. And
blending?
We're better at blending.
Blending, okay.
Blending companies together because we have done it now and the results become pretty obvious, and yeah. So people that we might not know as well call people who had companies that have joined us and they ask them that question, how did it go, right? So I think it's not always easy, but I would also jokingly say technology is always the toughest part of it because the rest of it is people. And that's what our sales associates do best. That's what our managers do best, so, yeah.
That's great. It's so consistent with what you're saying from your family, the tree, the home. It's like bringing people in, creating relationship, whatever party they're with, having discussion, bringing them in, all entrepreneurs, creating some unity. The two things that I hear you say there is, number one is how important relationship is and knowing who you're getting involved with. Mm-hmm. And number two is that it doesn't have to be just your way, that you recognize their strengths, what made them be successful, and you leave them alone to continue to be strong. And I think that's just so consistent with everything that we've just discussed, which is tremendous.
And it's one of the things that I think is most important to us now that, there was a time then, there are companies that they want to sell and go away. There are others that want to partner, which we do with people, and they want to stay. But that leadership group for the future is so incredibly important. And again, some of them are second generation or third generation, not maybe from owning the company even, but being in the business for second or third generation. And they have added so much value. And I have to tell you, we are not, my mother also used to say, I think this is an Irish thing, don't look back in your ancestors too far because there's probably a horse thief, okay?
Or you'll find the lunatic.
So there might be a little of that horse thievery in there, but we've all borrowed from the best from the years as to what is best. So now we're part of something that we can look at a company that joins us and say, wouldn't it be great if they had that? Or we can look, oh my God, why didn't we think of that? And so we have programs that have come out of New York, upstate New York, that have been, that the whole company uses today. All right. It's not just us saying this works. It's also what works from them. And so we've been very fortunate that way to have leaders on both sides that share and develop. And our leadership team for the future, our state presidents, they all get together. We have peer groups for our management leaders so that they're together. So all of those are important.
When are you going to start getting passionate about this, Helen? when are you going to start getting some energy? Oh my gosh, you're like on fire.
Well, because I think, well, that old adage about loving what you do, and none of us love what we do every day. Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Some days are tougher than other days, and
Sure.
personally or business wise. But I do think that before you do anything, you have to get rid of the other stuff on your plate. And okay, so I'm going to give you my last of my slogans, and I got this at a conference in Washington in the early 1980s, and it's a famous saying, but I forget who came up with it originally. If you have to swallow a frog, don't look at it too long. If you have to swallow more than one, swallow the biggest one first. So, most days, so I was on the phone, kicking a little butt earlier this morning on something that I saw on Facebook, and I didn't like it. So, I had to call some people. But if you get rid of that stuff, you don't carry it with you. Right? And again, it's not my job to have to implement it now. It's somebody else's job.
Right.
And that's nice. That's nice too. So that, when you look at my leadership style today, it hasn't really changed, but my leadership roles have changed.
Well, look, your passion, your energy, your knowledge, it's awesome. And it's so, and it makes, I've got like a bunch more questions for you, but I can't, we're not gonna get into them. Well, you and I'll talk about them. Maybe we'll do another one of these. The real thing, what I want to do is, there's a lot of people have questions right now. Times are changing. I think you've given so many great little nuggets here today. What I would love to do is take this next season and we answer as many questions as we can, because I think our audience really going to benefit from what you're sharing. But love your energy. Congratulations on all what you guys have done, and I'm really excited for the future. It's great to see a business that's had success in the past, but also I think you've set it up for generational success in the future, and it's inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, John. Well, we'll welcome you back.
Tough stuff.
Well, you know what? Thanks, you two, because now I have all these notes and all these questions from all the viewers. So it's been very interesting and inspiring thus far. Let me start with this. There's a question that came in, and this is an amalgamation, I think, of 2 or 3 different, they must have been broker owners or managers that have asked the same thing. What do I need to do differently now that the market has changed? To both of you now. Let's start with Helen.
Okay, well, I think I mentioned before that, flexibility is key to leadership, right? And so I don't really know that the market has changed, but I'm a big believer that you can't look back. So you have to be looking at what you're planning right now. And I think that everything I'm listening to, everything I'm preaching right now is that we have to get back to basics with people, but basics in a new way. It's easy to talk about basics, but today, because of our CRM programs, because of the kind of ability we have to be able to connect with people so easily, pull up people's telephone numbers, but we've got to be making personal calls. We've got to be talking more. We have got to be having more outreach. And I think we have to be, my big thing right now is when agents send me new listings that they want me to promote or something, I'll say, well, are you having an office meeting there? Are you having a tour? I'll come. And so I think getting back on caravans, you as a leader spearheading it, not saying people aren't coming in anymore, just have a caravan. Get a new listing on Tuesday, so let's go see it Wednesday. And that will grow. And the more properties that we see, the more we engage, the more we offer our sellers, we also give to our buyers.
Dermot.
I think I agree. I think, I was saying to you guys, we had our teams conference 2 weeks ago in Arizona, and we had like 600 teams there. And these guys are running great businesses. They're on the ball. They're fantastic. The amount of people, a cooling market is a great thing because it makes you evaluate what is going on. And I would say the number one feedback I got from that audience was they were going to go back and evaluate where they've gotten sloppy. They realized they're at the event. They realized where things have gotten a little sloppy. And as Helen said, getting back to those fundamental things that you believe in, that you know are going to make you successful. They're tried, they're true, and your customers are out there waiting for them. So I think as Helen was saying, like, evaluate right now what you need to be doing. You know what you need to be doing. The question is, are you doing it? The question is, did it get lost in this past season where you were so busy trying to get the deal done? Those things just get edged out, and that's not a guilt thing. Nobody should feel bad about that. That's all of us. But it's recalibrating back to, what do you believe in? Just like some of the things Helen just said, and just start doing them, and you believe in them. And this is a great time to hit the reset button, because there are going to be agents that disappear. There's going to be brokerages that go away. That's what these times do, and Helen well knows that. But the ones who are going to do well in this next season are going to get back to doing the things that work and the things that people believe in, and ultimately the thing that your customer needs in order to be successful. So do an evaluation.
I would also add, it's easy in this kind of a market to say, well, I need to try this or I need to try that. And again, as I said, leaders have to be fiscally responsible. Right? Mm-hmm. And we all have so much in our system right now that before we run and do something else, why don't we look and see what we have? Why don't we look and see what worked that we used to do, and see how those can benefit it before we go out and buy, no offense, but just some other program, some other software thing that's going to make us click ahead. Look at what we have and how do we better use it. So.
Listen, you're both great answers. The next question, which was, I'm going to just quickly go through, because the next question is, what is the most important things to do daily? Well, you just both said you have to be outreaching, calls, back to basics, caravans, fiscally responsible. You have to evaluate what you're doing, and you have to reset. Is there anything you'd recommend, either one of you, to the audience, to say, in today's world, what are the most important things to start your day off with?
Swallow the frog.
There you
Swallow
go.
the frog. And I think, given the time of year that it is, I think you have to get rid of the heavy duty stuff that you need to get rid of. You can't let the garbage build up or the paper build up on your desk. But I think you have to do some things to keep you positive also. So only read positive news, get you going. And then call a couple of people personally yourself that you haven't spoken to. Call people on your team, call your accounting firm, call anybody, but just call some people you haven't talked to that are part of the team that helps you lead better.
Love it.
Well done.
Yeah, the thing I can say personally is, get up early. Get up early. Get up as early as you can manage. Start getting up earlier than you actually are comfortable with. Like, shock yourself. Like, do a 5 a.m. Do a 4:30 a.m. Start your day before it starts. Get a head run. By the way, the earlier you get up, I believe the earlier you'll finish. Candidly, I try and get most of my work done between 8 and 12 every day. After lunch, I'm just pretending most days. 8 to 12 every day, I'm energized. I do all my thinking work. I do all the calls, like Helen was saying, is like reaching out to people and making those calls and connecting with people. But I would say start your day earlier, and I know Helen's a golfer too. I know you're a golfer, John, but like pro golfers don't just show up on the first tee. Okay, if your tee time on the PGA Tour is at 8 o'clock, those guys are up at 4. They're up at 4. They're stretching. They hit balls. They eat right. They hydrate. And I think, like, honestly, start your day before it starts, and start it as early as you can. And I promise you, you'll notice a massive difference, and you'll be done by lunchtime, and you'll have earned your day. And that's something I would just highly recommend folks really try.
I have to clarify, I'm really not a golfer. As a matter of fact, to everybody who's in Florida and everywhere else that's had such damage from this hurricane, but my golf clubs are gone. They're gone, and I'm not upset. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'll take the golf balls you've maybe left. I need them.
Okay.
Well, you know what? The next question, you two are spot on, by the way. The next question is a variation we're getting from several different people. And I think both of you have hit this in part already, such as caravans, etc. But the question is getting people back involved in the office. Is that important to going forward in our industry? Helen, start with that.
I think so, because I think so much of what we do is based on camaraderie. And it's what I was talking about before, that I don't think any of us that lead should be able to say there's only one person that we have learned from, because as agents, we all learn from the person next to us. Okay. We learn from somebody coming in and talking about a property they've seen, talking about a new listing they have, talking about a mortgage program, and that's been missing. But again, I think we have to change tactics a little bit, and that is give people a reason to come back. For the last year, it seems to me, every time I turn around, we have a wine on Wednesday, or ice cream Sunday, and but give them real reasons to come back. That behooves us as leaders and managers to have reasons to come to the office, okay, to make our meetings more valuable. And I said next week I'm going to do it. The next 2 weeks I'm going to do something silly that I haven't done in a long time, but at our fall summits. And the reason I'm doing it is because nobody just wants to hear us. Great speakers are fine, but they want more than that. And so how do we liven that up, and how do we entice them to come? And I think we have to do that also. Look at not just our traditional meeting, but what we can provide at that meeting.
Perfect. I love it. I think you're exactly right. And I think a couple of things. I don't think you can't lead without seeing people. And you can't connect. And the disconnection that's happened over this past season. I can tell you, I spoke at an event. I was in Northern California, 400 realtors in a room, and they were just excited to be back together again. But that company, and like Helen's going to do this, you're going to invest how many, 14 events or something you got planned? Making the investment to get people together and lead them in that process by making the investment yourself. So I think it's absolutely essential. We've created all our training. Our 100 Days to Greatness program is a reason to bring people back into the office and connect together, learn together, work together, share ideas, and then also connect and collaborate with their manager and their leader. And so I think Helen's exactly right. Look for reasons, what's in it for them. And then the last thing is this: it's not everybody has to go. That, like, if you try and get it like, well, I'm a failure if I don't get everybody back in the office. No, if you get 20%, if you get 10%, if you get 2 people in, start with 2, and then talk about it, talk it up, and create value. This is Helen said, make sure that there's a reason for them to come in, and that it's, even if it's just to connect with each other and facilitate a discussion and best practices and what do you learn, and people, it's essential. I think it's absolutely mission critical at this time. So.
And I have to say that I think also in doing that, we can't say we do it exactly the same way we did it before, right? But I have sent out that Zoom is dead. Okay, we've got to have meetings in person, and if people want to, they can come in, but they can't be interactive Zoom. We have to get back to that. But just because we always did it at this time, or just because we always did it in this place, I mean, the most successful ones I'm seeing now is we're actually having them in properties. Properties aren't selling in 3 days, so that a lot of our leaders have chosen to have meetings at offices, all right? And then they invite another office to come. Right? And then they go back, as I say, and suddenly they find houses to go see. So I think that we have to just be a little more innovative. I think we also have to give people more time. That we're out of that period where we could send out, we're going to have a thing on Tuesday because this is happening something. We can't do that. We have to spend more time really building our troops to want to be there. Yeah.
It's now a follow-up to that of how to get agents re-engaged with the camaraderie of the offices, etc. A follow-up to that is, and I know, Helen, you have, now Dermot, you said 14 different events planned. So it's follow-up is planning events, but also tell us how important, or if it's even important now more than ever, to recognize that those that have achieved certain goals or certain objectives within the firm. How important is recognition and awards?
Well, I think it's really great, but I think we have fallen on doing it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and and that's why I said, if you follow me, if you're stalking me like Dermot, I'm going to stalk him now, but I never post. Okay. I'm not even sure I would know how to post a picture because it's been so long since I've done that. What I do is I celebrate. You know, I celebrate, I applaud, I use emojis, but that's what my goal is. But I think we have fallen into that trap of that being social media, so much of it, right from our sales associates on up, by the way. You know, they post their testimonials on there. So we're no longer reading the testimonials at our weekly meeting, we're putting them online. Right? The people that have achieved this level, you know, personal best in one state we have, other states we have Champions Club, whatever it might be. And so I think we have to, and I'm glad you asked the question, John, because I'm going to remind everybody, we have to start doing that back at our meetings, right? And getting back to doing it and taking the pictures actually there, giving them their certificate, their tray, whatever it might be. So I do think it's very important recognition. But I would say as leaders, that leadership is also really requires you calling them on the phone and congratulating them, not posting them on social media as a manager. And I came in yesterday to a new managers training class that was here for 4 of our new managers. And I was talking to them just about that, about how we have to get back more at that, calling them personally, not just texting them and emailing them for congratulating for everything. So very important. Thanks for reminding me.
That's good. No, it's great. And I think Helen's saying, you know, it's also knowing your people, right? Like for instance, you know, I think celebrating the most amount of sales in a season. Okay, that's great, but does that really inspire anybody else? Maybe. But celebrate if they live up to a value that you really value, that you're looking for: excellence, professionalism, courtesy. Celebrate the victories, the small things, you know their stories. You know, one of the things we try and do is at our events is always tell a client's story, because it's not about Buffini Company. It's not about us. It's about our clients. Know somebody and know their story. You know, I get notes and notes and notes from clients who are just thank you. I got a stack of them over there after events because of what they experienced, because of how they were inspired. And Helen talked about inspiration earlier, you know, and ask people their story. Like I told a story here recently, a lady who got into real estate because she saw her friends selling real estate and thought it'd be fun. She and her husband, they adopted 2 girls from China. And then she was cold calling, door knocking, she was buying online, she was doing everything, and it wasn't her cup of tea. Her husband leaves her, 2 kids, $250,000 in unpaid tax bill, disappears. She gets a coach, she makes an investment in herself, she gets with her manager, she does everything she's told to do, and she gets on a fast track. And now she is the inspiration to her kids. And we tell these stories, and you don't need a production team. We use a production team, and those kids come along reading the notes that they got from their mother when she was struggling to inspire them, and they watched her struggle and tell the story that somebody else is going through. Everybody is going through something. Everybody's dealing with something. But if you can find those heroes in your office, in your company, and obviously you have their permission to tell their story, because nobody thinks they have a story. But that we become storytellers of, this is it's a tough business. People are going to find out right now why they get paid 6%, right? Because it's tough. But at the same time you got these great stories, and I'm sure, Helen, you have thousands of great stories over the years. And those stories, and celebrating somebody being resilient, being tough, being faithful, not giving up, being a great example to all of us, I think those opportunities are right underneath our feet. And as Helen said, pick up a phone. If you catch somebody doing something well, pick up a phone, say, attaboy, John, atta girl, Helen, great job. I saw that you got that deal done, yet that you persevered there. And I think it's massive. I think these last 2 things we've talked about from a leadership standpoint are critical to have a plan for that going into next year.
I hope you've gotten ideas, because I just have to show you this. These are my ideas just from these questions right now that I've written down. Great ideas that we're sharing, so.
Well, you are sharing, you're both sharing tremendous information and stepping further into the leadership side, okay? Because March 2020, both your organizations and our entire world was thrown into a pandemic. And we've been managing ever since then through the pandemic. What are you doing today? What are you telling your leaders, your company leaders today to manage differently going forward as we've emerged from the pandemic?
I think we answered it, be in person.
Be in person.
In
Okay.
person, one-on-one. Again, so to all of our leaders, be in the offices, okay? Whether there are 4 people there or 10 people there, we have to show up as leaders. Okay.
So if I could, Helen, if I could, summarizing that, because I want to move to a couple other questions and get Dermot's input as well. It's like a major back to basics.
It is. It is. But again, we have all these incredible tools how to help us get there. I mean, Dermot mentioned coaching. Well, 20 years ago, that wasn't a basic. Today, it's a basic, but it's something that you can enhance your basics with because you're working with your coach to decide what things you do well. And our agents.
So the back to basics has changed. The basics that were 10 years ago are different. So it's having a great CRM. It's utilizing the CRM. It's utilizing the coaching, right?
The basics haven't changed, but how we can approach them, how we can do things more quickly, how we can have better scheduling of them. All right, that's what's changed. I mean, today I look at we have so much emphasis right now on open houses, and open houses are incredible, and they're getting. We had a top agent that had 12 2 weeks ago. 12 open houses in a week. No team. She doesn't have a team working for her. Okay. Wow. She got some agents to do some others with her, but 12 open houses. And she carries normally she would carry about 100 listings. Today she carries about 30 listings, but still. And you look at that, but today people register on the computer or on their iPad. They don't register on a piece of paper that you have to go back and then fill in and put somewhere else when you think about it 5 days later or can't find the paper from Sunday. I mean, I think that's the difference. It's still the basics, but how we can get them and what we can get out of the basics is so much more.
Dermot?
Yep, love all that. I'll tell you what we're doing. I said earlier on, you ask people, what business are you in? And especially in real estate, you'll hear all sorts of answers. And so we're going through this last season, and we've done a lot of things, and we've had to pivot and be flexible. And what business are we in at Buffini Company? Myself and my brother have had these conversations. I'm like, hey, as we prepare for this next season, I just want to make sure, there's a lot of things we do. We do events, we have a podcast, we have multiple companies, we have like a coaching department, a training department, we have a marketing department. Like, okay, great. What's the point? Like, what are we about? What business are we in? We're a coaching and training company. So that's what we're going to rally around. And I think, and Helen was saying this earlier, bringing people into the office with a purpose, with a reason. We're going to raise the flag of Buffini Company and rally around the fact that we're coaching and training people in 47 different industries in 41 countries. And at the end of the day, what does that mean? It means people need help and they need our expertise. And our job is to go find them. Our job is to go serve them. Our job is to go and provide so much value that they'll want to stay with us and they'll want to tell all their friends and family members who are in business too. And so I think having a rally call, there's so many negative headlines. Miserableism is at an all-time high. The truth of the matter is consumer confidence is at an all-time low. Consumer spending is through the roof. I was in Pebble Beach this weekend. The place was packed. There's a big disparity between the headline and the reality.
That's the truth.
So that says opportunity to me. Okay. And so what is the headline you want to write for your business in the next 90, 100 days? How about you generated so many referrals in your business in the last 90 days, you hit the headlines? How about you generated so much net income because you did your budget and you upped your sales and you did a great job for your client. You closed a bunch of that you have more net income than you've ever had in your life. Like, I think that's the opportunity to go, what business am I in? What service do I provide? Who's my customer? Where are they? Let's go get them. And I think that's the opportunity right now. As other people are lost, they're worried about what's going to happen. They're worried about inflation, things they cannot control. I have some great news for you. People are going to be buying and selling homes. And you just have to choose if you're going to be one of them who does that. People are going to leave have left companies. They're going to come back to your company because their company is not going to make it. And they're not going to feel confident about it. Are you available to welcome them back to the company? Or are you in the process as a leader to go and tell somebody, I got some great news for you. You know, over here at Howard Hanna, we are on fire. We got plans. We're inspired. We're fired up. That's what I want to be part of. And I think that's a great opportunity, but it has to be true. You have to believe it. So anyway.
Go ahead.
You have to sell it to the people that you work with. That's what you have to do as a leader, okay? And, you know, we've always said at Howard Hanna that we never take a vote on anything to do it, whether not just us as a family, but our state presidents. There's no votes on stuff. We're great salespeople. If we can't convince you that you want something, if the state president can't convince us that they should do this, then, you know,
convince anybody else.
Haven't inspired us to believe in it, but we need to do that. So we have to be constantly selling ourselves that same basic tool. When you say that, I do believe that we at Howard Hanna, that we believe that that is the most important thing. It's the most important thing that everyone who is with us, from the newest salesperson to the most experienced, from the newest manager on up, it's, you know, you've got to have people follow you by having them believe in what you're saying to them.
That's right.
Well, we're down to the last 30 seconds. So with that, you guys have been absolutely tremendous, marvelous. So the final question, which keeps coming up, is our audience would like to know your perspective on the state of our industry. And I know you just said something, Dermot, but I'd like to have Helen, and then if you wouldn't mind, bring it to a close, Dermot. Helen, you first.
I think our industry is really much healthier than people want to make it out right now. There are no underlying reasons to believe there are going to be major market price shifts. There will be in certain markets, okay, just because they went so crazy. But for most of us in most of our markets, you know, our prices are going to stay pretty much the same. Interest rates have had an effect, but interest rates, again, I think Dermot said earlier on, we've been through 7 recessions. You know, we've been through a lot of interest rates. So I'm not concerned about that. I do think we are going to see a shift, as Dermot has said, about the numbers of agents, because so many agents came into the business. And so I do think that the cream will rise to the top on agents right now. And we, again, as leaders, have to focus on making sure agents who have joined us recently got the training that they deserved, because we were in a pandemic, and were there shortfalls in that, we've got to make sure that's the case. But otherwise, I think we're pretty healthy. And so a little settling down won't be the end of the world. And really, I mean, 30 days, 60 days. So I think we're in good shape for the future, but we go up and down, and we'll go through that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And also, I just think it's a great time to plan and prepare and do a reset. Reset all those things. You know, we've covered, I mean, honestly, I hope you have a replay of this, because I think a lot of what's made you guys successful for a number of years, consistency and knowing what to do. When you know what to do, you don't have to worry about what's happening around in the world. You can't control those things. There's a great opportunity to hit the reset button. There's a great opportunity to sit down. What's my goal between now and the end of the year? What do I want to do? What do I have planned? What do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to keep doing? Okay. What do I need to stop spending? Like, don't cut the muscle out of your business. Cut the fat. You get sloppy. Good markets do not produce good habits. Have an honest evaluation. Prepare your ship. The market is cooled, and when it cools and it gets a lot colder, it's better for it's going to be better for the professionals. It's going to be worse for those folks, because they're not going to make it. If you're a person who's committed to the business, you've had some experience in this business, You have a desire to serve people and help people. And then last but not least, that you're willing to make an investment in yourself, and you're willing to go and get the skills, take the classes. There's no secrets to success. Helen has just laid out a bunch of simple, powerful things that have created generational success and will create generational success for a long time. So I would just say, what classes are you taking? What books are you reading? Who are you hanging out with? What's your mindset? Are you reading the headlines? Are you creating your own? And invest in yourself. If you do that, you're going to do extremely well in this next season. And here's the bigger news. This economic time is not the one we got to worry about. It's the one in 5 years' time when they have to start tackling the federal debt. That's when the big bang is coming. And you have an opportunity right now to plan and prepare in peacetime, so you bleed less and more and you thrive. So I think there's a great season here in the next 18 months to get your ship together. And that's with the P. So anyway, anyway, I just want to say thanks a million. Honestly, I'm fired up. I got my own notes here. I got a gazillion notes I've written. And John, thanks for the opportunity just to facilitate great leaders and share them with this audience. And also to the audience, just all the questions, the participation that we get from all of you is fantastic. So I just really feel grateful today having had this conversation with you guys. And it's been an absolute pleasure and honor talking to you today, Helen.
Thank you. I need to talk to Dermot every morning to make me feel good.
Well, you know what, Helen, you're absolutely an iconic figure in this industry, and your family is just a treasure. Dermot,
But iconic is old. Remember that.
well, you know what?
I know where I am. I know where I am, but I also know the future, and that's important.
Absolutely.
Incredibly important for leaders to know the future.
And a special thanks to you, and a special thanks to Dermot and everyone else that has joined us here today. I just want to make a quick note to everybody that this is our final webinar for the 2022. I can't believe this, but our final webinar in the 2022 Lessons in Leadership series. And I want to thank Dermot. I want to thank all of our attendees. I want to thank everyone that's participated, especially today, Helen, such a special friend. We hope you all enjoyed these conversations as much as I have. And Dermot, you brought some absolutely wonderful and excellent leaders to this podium to be heard, to be listened to, and to learn from. And that includes you too, Dermot. I think everyone that's tuned in has learned a lot from you. We're grateful for this opportunity. I hope to see, and I'll see both of you, and I'll see many of our audience down in Orlando, November 11th at the Power Broker reception and dinner. And I'll be raising a toast to both of you and everyone that participated on this wonderful series, Lessons in Leadership. Thank you, Dermot. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks a
Everyone
million.
have a great day.
Great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.